conceived in faith and liberty, home of the brave, land of the free, who's the envy of the world. But this shining city on a hill has turned from the Creator's will and let evil take control. Now the reckless men who lead them want to strip away their freedom and to steal their very soul.
Hello, everybody. Welcome
Now it's
to Resurrect the Republic. Dirty Uncle Sam on RBN Network. I want to welcome tonight Eric Hughes with Courtroom Observers. Eric, are you there?
I am here, Lori. Thanks for having me. How are you tonight?
I am doing wonderful tonight. How are you?
Good, good. Well, I mean, it could be better because after observing the court, some of the evil that's going on in there, you know, it's a difficult situation, and that's why there are shows like this one.
Absolutely, and we really want to thank Resurrect the Republic, Dirty Uncle Sam, as well as RBN for allowing us to cover situations like this. Last night on the show, we covered common law grand juries and the difference between presentments and indictments, and we covered the lawfulness of the common law grand juries and of the people. So tonight, I want to cover and explain a little bit more to the people the difference between the de jure and the de facto. And I want to join that in with the people so that they can understand exactly what it is that you do as well. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to give the individuals that are listening in on this call the difference between de jure and de facto, and then we'll go into how, because we are fighting on the common law grounds with the common law grand juries, but we're also having to fight in their de facto court system as well. And it is important to know both sides so that you know how to arm yourself with truth to be able to protect yourself and to be able to help protect others. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, Lori.
Okay, so de jure under the Black's Law Dictionary definition is a descriptive of a condition in which there has been a total compliance with all requirements of law. Of right, it is legitimate, lawful, by right, and just title. In this sense, it is contrary of the de facto. It may be contrasted with the de grata, in which case it means as a matter of right, as de grata means by grace or favor. And again, it may be contrasted with de adequate, where here it means by law, as the latter means by equity. So that is the de jure. That is, when we are speaking of common law, we are talking about de jure. And when we're talking about statutory, we're talking about de facto. And the definition of de facto, which is an extremely long definition, so I'm not going to read the whole definition to the audience. I am reading these straight out of Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition. De facto means in fact, indeed, actually. This phrase is used to characterize an officer, a government, a past action, or a state of affairs which must be accepted for all practical purposes but is illegal or illegitimate. Thus, an office, position, or status existing under claim or color of right, such as a de facto corporation.
Legal fraud.
Legal fraud, exactly.
Sorry, the whispers from the silence in the
Oh, you sounded wonderful. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Lori. God bless you. I just sat back and was just so proud. You really should have your own show, but yeah, I just wanted to pop in and give you little sound effects. I'm going to be floating around in the background, but you're handling it real well. Thank you, honey.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.
Say some prayers for my father. For those of you guys out there, there's a reason why I have Lori very kindly standing in for me. My father is probably in the twilight of his life, and he is 90 years old. He's lived a very, very, very full life, and he's surrounded by family. He's well loved. And I just had my brother whisper in his ear, John 3:16.
Awesome. And we will definitely keep him in our prayers.
And I thank you all.
You know that
God
each
bless
and
you.
every night. God bless you, Tom. Thank you very much. So now that our listeners have heard the definitions of the de facto versus the de jure. The de jure is the common law. It is the law of the land. It is not the law of the sea. It is not admiralty law, the statutory law, which of course is your de facto. It is what is being held in these quote-unquote courts today, and this is why your constitutional rights, your unalienable rights that you were born with from the very first breath that you took are being violated, because they are not recognizing the de jure and they're going by the de facto. Now, to be able to even make you understand that color of law is even in their codes. In their codes themselves, if you go to 18 U.S. Code Title 242, Deprivation of Rights under Color of Law, and I want to read this to you because it solidifies even more for you to understand color of law does exist. It is not a conspiracy theory. It is in their own codes, and when they violate your unalienable rights, which is the de jure, they have violated your rights under color of law, and they can be held accountable for that. Whoever under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or to different punishments, pains, or penalties on account of such person being an alien or by reason of his color or race than are prescribed for the punishment of citizens shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year, or both. And if bodily injury results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include the use, attempted use, or threatened use of a dangerous weapon, explosives, or fire, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years, or both. And if death results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include kidnapping or an attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse or an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to kill, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years for life, or both, or may be sentenced to death. So how do we solve the problem? One of the ways that we are working to solve the problem in the de facto, which is not the common law courts, it is the court system that is very active today, that continues to violate individuals' rights. Eric Hughes, along with courtroom observers, have been very successful in helping individuals with their cases. And Eric, would you like to explain to the audience exactly what it is Courtroom Observers does?
Oh, well, we attempt to bring justice, which is woefully lacking, common law justice, natural law justice, which means there has to be a victim to a crime. You're getting pulled over for going 45 and a 35, and you're not hurting anybody, and no one's called to complain about you speeding, and you're not posing any immediate threat, and there's no victim. You should not be getting little yellow tickets from your local police, which are no more than contract agents. And the New York State Police at the Police Academy in Albany are being taught almost exclusively, other than the physical training, all their in-class training is contract law. Everything's contract law. They force you to get a license under state statute, and then they hold you to the contract and all the fine print and details that go with that piece of paper that you sign.
Yeah, but here's the only problem with that is that when Guido puts a gun to your head and tells you that your signature, your brains are going to be on the contract, what does that do to the contract?
I believe that would be under
duress. You can sign. You can put under duress as you sign your name. Some places will then challenge you, and it's sometimes sometimes
been there. Yeah.
You basically, we hold their feet to the fire, and at every turn in life, you have to hold any agent of government, and these are all private. Don't forget, we were dealing with private incorporated entities.
Yeah.
Just about every town, county, city, including the federal government, has incorporated themselves in violation of all the public trust and all constitutional standards. They've turned themselves into a private corporation, and every corporation has paper holders, stockholders, shareholders. You'll hear those words. Shareholders, who are the stakeholders. Those are the stockholders of the private corporations that are your county, your city, your state. I'll read you something from the Act to Reorganize State Government in New York, 1925. An Act for Reorganizing State Government in New York, 1925. And this was legislation that was passed in 1925, and it says, first, the Executive Department. The constitutional amendment approved requires that the head of the department shall not be the governor himself, but a person appointed by him, the governor, with the advice and consent of the Senate. So basically what they did right there was they established an executive department, and over that executive department that runs the matters of the state, the governor appoints a person. And then this goes on to the 1925 constitutional amendment says, it is recommended that the Constitution be amended so as to provide that the governor may be the head of the executive department. So they basically put your government into a position as CEO of your county or your state or your city or your town. And it's very difficult to find a town or city or county to live in that's not incorporated. There are some that are. Many on the Native American lands are unincorporated. And some towns are attempting to unincorporate as we speak, but it's difficult because once they get the people who hold office, get that money flow, which comes from incorporation, it becomes a business now. When we call the courts, it says our business hours are. The courts should not be having business hours; they should be doing justice.
Yes,
they're not.
Yeah.
The court of observers attempts to hold their feet to the fire and at least put in check the and I have to use the word atrocities that are being committed by the courts. Very few cases that come before modern courts in this nation are truly criminal matters. Occasionally, very rarely, it's in the single digits percentage-wise, less than 5%, are truly real criminals, a criminal element out there. And I would argue that anybody involved in, quote, drug war crime are not criminals. That's orchestrated and staged by statutes that are unlawful to begin with. They're legalizing the lawful. And we've already been through this with Prohibition. Prohibition was repealed, and simply reinstating laws against certain substances, whether it's alcohol, whether it's cannabis, whatever, what have you, are simply reinstating the unlawful prohibition that was repealed. And attaching another substance to it is simply a matter for the courts to make a lot of money, and the private prison industry as well, because it's very difficult to find in prison that's not for a jail. Many county jails are now run privately by corporations. So you have incorporated towns, incorporated counties, corporate jails that are private. They just want to make money. One of our observers was locked up for asking a cop for his oath, a high sheriff for his oath. And while he was in there, he said he met a gentleman who was in for 79 days for having expired tags on a car. It was only a $100 fine, but he didn't have the $100, and nobody else came up. So imagine 80 days in jail just for having improper tags on a vehicle and on a $100 bail charge. So things like that. I mean, that's the majority, the preponderance of what's going on in the courts. I've talked to people who get out recently, and they say everybody in jail was in for either getting back behind on their child support, expired license, driver's license, or suspended license, or saying the wrong thing to the judge in court. There wasn't one criminal in there. I couldn't find one for most people. It's very rare to find real criminals. So for all the judges and the sheriffs and the police who are all now trustees and stockholders and shareholders in their incorporated counties and their incorporated courts. So now they're a money-making entity now.
Like
they're going to look at us as an entirely different animal. So,
do you find
that's kind of
excuse me, do you find that when the courtroom observers, what I have found with my experience is when I go into the courtroom a lot these days, usually nobody is sitting in the seats. So when the courtroom observers get involved, obviously a lot of behinds get in the seats. And do you find that makes the police officers and the court system itself and the judge nervous, where they're more apt to not cross that line?
Big time. I watched, well, it was a classic case of one gentleman I know here in the upstate New York. He got a speeding ticket from the state police. We had quite a few people there, and the trooper didn't show up to testify in court, and they had to drop the matter. And as soon as we all walked out of the courthouse, and we were all out in the 15 of us, which is a pretty decent-sized crowd for a small court, on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, when most people are working. We had well over a dozen people, somewhere between 12 and 20 people there, about 15. And we were all outside just kind of wrapping it up and saying goodbye, and all of a sudden the trooper pulls in. He must have got the call from the DA saying, okay, they're gone now. No, I think it really does matter. I've seen it matter.
Well, these courts have become basically taken over, almost kind of like there's something that kind of goes to mind with that. Check this out.
You will be assimilated.
I am Locutus of Borg. Resistance is futile.
Resistance is futile. You will be assimilated.
Yeah, that's what they want you to think. See, here's the enemy wins when people stand down. So if they can install enough fear and enough intimidation and enough maybe, hey, if your voice doesn't matter, it doesn't count, it really does. Now, your vote may not count because the electronic voting machines and even the mechanical voting machines are very easily manipulated. And so I don't think there's going to ever be a fair election unless you had paper write-in, everything was done by write-in and by paper, and I fully support that. People can start taking back their county, and one of the important things is to get out of these electronic voting machines, which can be rigged, by the flip of a switch or a programming manipulation.
I agree 100% with that statement.
Old school is best. The technology that we thought would, make our lives easier is ultimately going to enslave us. I can make that case on just about all the technology. So
and not just the technology, the technocrats that have been programmed to believe that their version of this little utopian vision of these totalitarian fascists is the way to go. I mean, living example. We all know about cannabis. At this point, I have actually witnessed cannabis cure cancer in Colorado. I've seen it happen with my own eyes. You cannot tell me it doesn't work. I know it does. So we know that we have this incredible push for decades to keep. Now, see, and one of the reasons why I'm really against any kind of legalization at all, because what all this is a guise for opening up head shops to keep people puffing the smoke rather than going any quicker to the oils which actually cure them. You won't get the oils and the foods and that kind of stuff from just general legalization. They never had a place to say in this. Now, my mother, who suffered the last year of her life, if I would have known what I know now, We'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors, Resurrect the Republic, Dirty Uncle Sam, Lorri Anderson, special guest host. God, I love her. We'll be right back.
We are the American Freedom Party. This is the most urgent time in the history of Western civilization. In the year 1900, white people of European descent comprised 35% of the world population. Today it is less than 9% and falling fast. Europe is being overrun with Middle Eastern immigrants, and America's founding stock is rapidly being replaced with third world peoples from around the globe. For the last 50 years, every influential institution in this nation, our schools and universities, our media, our churches, and our employers have promoted policies and principles that teach whites to be ashamed of their great heritage and birthright. We, who in the 1950s, the 1960s, and 1970s were the world's dominant force, are now so afraid of being called racist that we were quailing towards irrelevance and extinction. Join the American Freedom Party today. Reach us at theamericanfreedomparty.us or call us at 701-317-5317. Paid for by the American Freedom Party.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
This is a public announcement. Be ready to copy down a website address at the end of this message. If there was ever a doubt in our mind that radio works, it's gone. We have received such response to our $350 down, $99 a month land purchase opportunity from you that we are blown away. To keep our overhead down, we're using an internet-based sales tool so you can buy with confidence and purchase your land in New Mexico with just a click of a mouse and even pay with PayPal. But some people have said they'd like to arrange multiple parcels or have other questions. We'd be happy to talk to you. Call us toll-free at 855-LAND-HO-1. That's 1-855-LANDHO-1. New Mexico land parcels are still available at only $350 down and $99 a month. This is beautiful land near amenities of a city, but far enough away to be private. And in as little as 1 year, you own it. $350 down, $99 a month. As the days go on, the land gets more and more limited, so visit us online at landho.tv, LANDHO.tv right now.
Well, certainly there are those who are more responsible than others. They will be held accountable. But again, truth be told, if you're looking for the guilty, you need only look into a mirror.
Yeah. Let me preface whatever's going to happen in the future with the fact I'm not your typical cat rapping to shoot you. Anything given certificate is under ownership. Once you know the true predicament, you got a bone to pick. Citizens had to be pledged as collateral chattel before the monarch could start the international battle. They tricked your parents into a human monopoly. That's why they registered you as biological property.
Welcome back, Resurrect Republic, 30 Uncle Sam, Truth Radio broadcast on RBN. Special guest host Lorri Anderson. I'm going to give it to you, honey. God bless you.
God bless you. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Eric. And I thank you for talking with all of our listeners. And I have the hope that they will check out your website. Can you give out the website information? You have different cases on there that you are helping with. And I think it would be helpful for them to know where to be able to find your information before we go on with the rest of the topics.
Sure. My website is called courtroomobservers.com. That's courtroomobservers.com. And we, get involved in whatever cases come along that are the most egregious, the most grotesque violations of people's fundamental, unalienable and natural rights. Often people that don't really have much of a voice, and we don't always jump right on the biggest case if there's a bunch of other, people in our movement, so to speak, covering certain with more big name events and more famous events. We cover some of the smaller, so we try to give a voice to those who are voiceless and don't really, and certain cases have just everything in them. Government atrocities, deceit, betrayal, persecution of patriots. Often offenses against minors, and when it's well-connected people, the system doesn't do a thing. And there's cases going on like that right now all over New York. And we can get into that later, some details of certain cases. But our website is courtroomobservers.com. The Shane Bennett case, which is a large gun seizure in western New York, is a case that has national implications. Took place right up the road from where I go to church, and people can just kind of go down, check out the information, and go down the rabbit hole on the website. Shane Bennett gun seizure is this case gets it has national implications. This is a major case that if Shane Bennett goes to prison and he's found guilty and it's not overturned on appeal, the state wins, so to speak. It's going to affect state gun laws that are coming down the pike for most of the other states in the nation, even the ones that have decent gun rights now. Because what's it, kid? It's like tyranny is like a cancer. It metastasizes out of New York, spreads throughout the nation. The template for the tyranny is always here. So there's a lot of pushback. I must say that people are waking up in New York. Over 150,000 basically middle-class housewives have refused to let their sons and daughters take the Common Core curriculum tests at their public schools, and that's expected to go up to over 250,000 as we get closer to the to the end of the school year. So that's a huge awakening. Once you get the mother, you don't want to mess with the mothers and their kids. So that's very, and people only 4%. Now this is the statistics. The New York State Police had to be sued in state court to release the numbers of how many people registered their AR-15 rifles under New York's quote-unquote SAFE Act, which are the new gun laws that came along and required that anybody who owns an AR-style assault or rifle or an assault rifle defined as a number of features must register them with the state. And so many people decided they weren't going to do that it was the state who was embarrassed to release the numbers of only 4% registered their rifles. That's less than the number of people that work for the government. That means the government's own people, along with 96% of the rest of us, put their finger in the air, and it wasn't their thumb. So,
that's really good.
Registration always leads to confiscation.
Absolutely.
Your history, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it.
Well, and it's in line, almost word for word, the way that the UNSATT is set up, and the UNODA for the confiscation of weapons and destruction of it. They want to destroy our rights. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
This is the most transparent administration in history.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you have difficulty taking supplements? Are you searching for a high-quality, complete nutritional drink that your whole family will love? NutriMedical's Life Support has arrived. All of your daily nutritional requirements in one quick, delicious drink. Dr. Bill Deagle's Life Support is a proprietary blend of vegan protein, activated vitamins, essential minerals, amino acids, probiotics, green tea, digestive enzymes, anti-inflammatories, cancer prevention, detoxification, and much more. Your body will high-five you for this one. Life Support is the best complete nutritious meal replacement on the market. Whether you are an elite athlete, have post-operative challenges, chronic illness, elderly, or a family that just wants a quick, delicious drink, try Dr. Bill Deagle's Life Support for optimized nutrition in one great-tasting smoothie. Just add cold water, almond milk, fruit, or anything else you like. NutriMedical's Life Support. Try our great-tasting chocolate or vanilla today. Call 888-212-8871 or visit us online at NutriMedical.com. NutriMedical.com for the whole family.
Hi, my name is Chris. Since the 1970s, I have been actively making products available that support good health. What makes my juices flow is helping mankind get healthy. Today, I'm going to tell you about a product that will help your juices to flow. I am excited to recommend Dr. Miller's Holy Tea to you. Even if we are eating a clean diet, these impurities are entering our bodies. Holy Tea moves these poisons that are creating havoc with our health out of our bowels. It works on the whole digestive system. The 5 tasty herbs are combined to provide an amazing detoxifying and healing tea that will rid your body of the pollutants and soothe your digestive tract, and in some cases, help you lose weight. It is critical for our health to move all of the environmental toxins from our bodies. The Holy Tea can do that. As a hydrocolon therapist, remember, with every BM, you're supporting RBN. www.holytea.org. 800-326-2001.
Roberts & Roberts Brokerage believes that everyone should have some of their assets in investment-grade precious metals. Roberts & Roberts has been a trusted name in precious metals for nearly 40 years. Experienced investors will appreciate our personal service and low prices. If you're new to precious metals, we can help you find the products right for you. Give us a call today at 800-874-9760 or visit us online at rrbi.co. Roberts & Roberts Brokerage, when you're serious about precious metals.
With autumn in the air, it's time to think about getting ready for winter. And it's time to save at herbalhealer.com. You'll find amazing seasonal savings to prepare you for the fight against cold and flu season. Like Oregacillin to promote lung health. 30 capsules, regularly $34.95, now only $25. HHA olive leaf, the natural antiviral, normally $16.95, now 60 capsules are just $12. HHA elderberry power, a great flu and virus fighter, regularly $16.95, 60 capsules, now $10. Save on all our homeopathic detoxes. Choose from lungs, kidney, liver, brain, libido, or whole body, normally $26.95, now just $20. Visit herbalhealer.com and click on the Fall Winter Specials button to save on all our natural cold and flu fighting products. Also explore our Herbal Healer Academy correspondence courses that teach you how to handle your health naturally. herbalhealer.com, healing the world with nature, one person at a time, since 1988.
For the most amazing, calming, brain-stabilizing, blood sugar, and natural addiction-breaking formula, try CalMind. Anxiety melts, panic is gone, sleep is restful, and you'll stay calm during stress. Better than booze, mind-altering drugs, or anti-anxiety, antidepressant, toxic medications, CalMind lubricates your mind so you'll sail through the day effortlessly. Order Dr. Bill Deagle's Nutridyne at 888-212-8871 or NutriMedical.com and listen to the NutriMedical Report on GCN with open lines every weekday. NutriMedical, bringing nutrition and medicine together.
Fills my sails, floats the sea of years, with no provision, but in open face, open straits of fear.
Welcome back to Resurrect the Republic, Dirty Uncle Sam Radio on RBN with Eric Hughes of Courtroom Observers and Tom Lacavera Stewart, and of course me, co-host today, Lorri Anderson. I wanted to ask you a question, Eric, because I know even with the Bennett case that you were just discussing, because a lot of attention has been drawn to this unconstitutional issues. The state nor the federal government was ever granted the rights to dictate to individuals about gun ownership, nor actually about marijuana in and of itself. Have you noticed that? This is something I have noticed in the courts when I go sit down and try to observe, to be able to help be a body in a seat to try to hold them accountable for their actions. Do you notice that these judges now love the signs of no recording, and they absolutely really want to work in the dark and violate the most fundamental right of recording and the First Amendment? Do you notice that?
Oh, absolutely. They're scared to death of the camera. The camera is a better weapon than a gun by a long shot. This is why the court, having a courtroom observers little group is almost better than having a little militia group, because you're going to affect, first of all, your militia is going to be reactive to more much more serious, way late in the game type of scenarios where violence may be the only option. We don't want that. We're trying to do this, non-violently. If you get into the courts now, we can save a lot of bloodshed later, because if we can start affecting change now, and so anyway, to answer your question, yes, they can't stand the camera. They can't stand the public attention. This is why we got to get cameras into the courtroom. And we also do a phone blitz. We get, I send out texts and do postings on the website. And with my Twitter account and some friends that are also networked together, we can usually get, several thousand phone calls put on the court system. I'll tell you a quick story one night. One day, in South Dakota, someone that we were trying to help out, we were doing a phone blitz, calling the court, trying to, require them to produce an indictment, which they didn't have, require them to do the constitutional and common law thing in their court. And so we were just basically making our voices heard. So many people called that the judge went to get a phone to get a line out of the courtroom to get an interpreter for someone who was coming up that didn't speak English, and couldn't get a line out of the courtroom, and he had to let the guy go. So that was kind of neat. And that guy didn't know anything about any courtroom observers, and we didn't know anything about him. And he got off just because of a phone blitz we were doing for somebody else. So just kind of just to show you how God works in very interesting ways. You may not really even see or know the help that you're going to be giving to people by getting involved with just making some phone calls. If you see a case up there, we put numbers up. We put numbers of the sheriff, of the district attorney, of the judge's chambers. And so I encourage people to call. If you want to help somebody, if you take interest in a case, if you're a gun person, you're interested in the Second Amendment, get involved in the Shane Bennett case. Start putting heat on the court of Judge Duran and the District Attorney Michael Tantillo in Ontario County, New York. It's a very dangerous county. They have signs at the entrance of every town in this county that announce the Freemasons. Masons, ancient, free, and accepted. And they announce their presence very clearly with blue signs. It's all out in the open. And all the sheriff's stars have been changed from the 5-pointed, historically accepted constitutional sheriff's star to the 6-pointed Masonic symbols. It's a very interesting county. And if I had a minute, Lorri, can I discuss who the enforcers are really for all this tyranny? And what, as we get into the courts, I'd like people to realize that the bar, I think you touched on this before, Lorri. I'll extend it. The bar is a private association.
Yes,
and
it is.
You, in almost every court in the nation, it's very difficult without some serious paper filings and really holding their feet to the fire and sometimes having to sue in federal court. You get the right to represent yourself or to help somebody else as a counsel without being an attorney. To be a lawyer for somebody without being a member of the bar. And almost all the courts, and I just had this happen in the Shane Bennett case, I walked up to assist Shane and required that the court produce an indictment from a grand jury, which they did not have. And, boy, the judge didn't want to hear it. Are you an attorney? I said, well, no, I know the law, but I am not a paid member of the bar. Well, then you can't. He shut me right down, and I have every right under multiple Supreme Court decisions to stand as what's called next friend and counsel to somebody who doesn't want to get a corrupt attorney that belongs to the Bar Association, which is a private club. Now, people, this is not a governmental organization, although they're sanctioned as if they were by the government, and this is not a college. This is a country club. And so to practice law in the state of New York and almost every other state, you have to be a member of this private country club called the Bar Association. And if you don't, and don't forget all the judges are also attorneys, so they're a member of this private organization as well. So they're not really going to have much incentive to allow anybody to come in and basically operate out of their club. And I'd like to read the definition. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, to back up what you were just saying, so that individuals that are listening in can search these Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 1728 USCA, next friend. A next friend is a person who represents someone who is unable to tend to his or her own interest. And then the NAACP versus Button and United Mine Workers of America versus Gibbs and Johnson v. Avery it's members of groups who are competent non-lawyers can assist other members of the group achieve the goals of the group in court without being charged with unauthorized practice of law. And then in Roadway Express v. Pipe, it is amazing what it says. It says, due to sloth, inattention, or desire to seize tactical advantage, lawyers have long engaged in dilatory practices. The glacial peace of much litigation breeds frustration with the federal courts and ultimately a disrespect for the law, unquote. And then in Schwer versus Board of Examiners, it says, quote, the practice of law cannot be licensed by any state, lowercase, or state, capital. So that's just to confirm what you were just saying. And this is one of the things we strive to do on this show, and what you're striving to do is the educational purpose of it. We do have 2 callers on the line. I want to go ahead and take those calls, and then we'll get back to some more things that we can do joining together, as well as our listeners joining together on how we can stand together to help stop the corruption. I would like to go ahead and take Ed from Kentucky. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Hi, guys. How you doing, Eric? How's New York?
Hi, Ed. Welcome.
Old friend, Ed?
Yeah, and I'm back in Kentucky.
Oh,
Right,
that's
Ed.
wonderful.
Hey, Tom. How you doing, bro? I got a little interesting tidbit to share with your audience, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Find this very interesting. It's called the Dick Act of 1902 cannot be repealed. Gun control forbidden. Protection against tyrannical government. The Dick Act of 1902, also known as the Efficiency of Militia Bill H.R. 1165-4 of June 28, 1902. Individuals makes null and void, invalidates null and voids, in parentheses, all, in big capital letters, so-called gun control laws. All members of the militia have the absolute personal right and Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms of any type and as many as they can afford to buy. And that's an actual.
Yes,
law.
I have the actual
The Dick Act is very important. Yeah, and I wanted to just throw in there on that same line of thought there, Ed. It's, I don't know if I haven't researched all the states, but I know in New York there is not only a constitution, a New York State Constitution, which has its own Bill of Rights. There's a statutory Bill of Rights, and I believe, Lori, wasn't it Article 2, subsection 4?
Yes, it was.
Or Article 2, subsection 4 stated the right of the people to keep and bear arms cannot be infringed.
Cannot.
They even made it a little more firm than the word shall. They changed the word cannot.
Well, let me just.
They're still infringing. Trust me.
Can I jump in there for a second? I had listened to Scalia right after he was most probably murdered, de facto or not. He was still a man, and for whatever other reasons, his autopsy was shucked. Anyway, he offered an explanation of the Second Amendment that I think is rather prudent, and he basically explained it like this: the right of the people to keep and bear arms is being necessary for the security of a free state. The right of the people shall not be infringed. The reason this was a pre-existing right that the government did not give, if you trace the history back into England, into Scotland, to the Catholic kings, essentially, and this is where the origins of the Second Amendment came from. And what the Catholic kings did, and they had a militia. All their people were the militia, just same thing. What the Catholic kings did was they banned guns of anyone who didn't support the Catholic Church. There is where was born the premise for the Second Amendment that would come in the future. So without understanding the absolute crucial history behind why things came into being, many Americans have been propagandized to believe that because the Bill of Rights has a Second Amendment on it, they transfer, and they use this term all the time, and it drives me nuts. Second Amendment rights. There is no such thing. There is a Second Amendment restriction upon government for ever coming near any of our arms. And that means friggin' cannons if we want to have them.
Yep, absolutely.
End of story.
I want to add to that. I understand what the gentleman's saying about the Dick Act of 1902 because there's been a lot of things thrown around about the Dick Act of 1902. There's been a lot of articles out there. Some of them, excuse me, were actually misinforming people because of the ex post facto law. Okay, what that does is that retroactively criminalizes
ex
conduct.
post facto?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And what that does is that retroactively criminalizes conduct which was not criminal when it was done.
Right.
It does not make it to where an act cannot be changed, altered, or abolished. Now, here's the kicker with this. On the Dick Act of 1902, it clearly establishes the difference between the military, the militia, the organized militia, and the unorganized militia, and all of that. But it could, if they wanted to change it, they can do it legislatively. But the fact is, they can't do it lawfully because they're not even allowed to touch the Second Amendment. They're not allowed to touch any of our weapons.
Yes. Why would we place a restriction upon government to say, okay, well, here's the thing, government. We have this pre-existing right that existed before you were ever even a thought in anybody's mind. So we're going to put that down on a piece of paper just so that you can come along later with some black-robed priest of Baal and just undo it because you feel so. It just doesn't work that way.
Right. So the reality of it can't be repealed. Yes, technically it could because ex post facto laws. That's just meaning that, okay, let's say that, I'll give a good example, just like the Bennett case, the SAFE Act, okay? It wasn't illegal to hold this certain weapon 2 weeks ago, but now it is illegal. So if you did it 2 weeks ago, they can't go back and charge you with something you did 2 weeks ago when it was lawful. That's what that means. And so, yeah, they could repeal it. But the point is, they're not supposed to be touching any part of the Second Amendment in the first place. They were never granted that authority. They were given limited authority, period. They're not even supposed to be outside of their 10-mile square if you're talking about the federal end of it, because the federal end of it, that corporation that sits in Washington, D.C. on the District of Columbia, is supposed to remain in 10-mile square, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. And anything at the seat of government, you can check 4 U.S. Code 72, and that solidifies it. Any of them at the seat of government, they have to remain inside the District of Columbia. They don't have the authority to tell individuals what to do. It was a contract between the states and the central government. That's it, not the people. So I appreciate you bringing that up, though, because I love the Dick Act of 1902, and a lot of people have not read it. And you can get that in at the archives in the federal government site, the actual archive of the Dick Act.
Or you can go to resurrecttherepublic.com and click on the Dick Act.
Oh, you've got that in there. I apologize, Tom.
I sent this a copy to my friend, and he's he's a disabled vet like I am. Mm-hmm. And he got it. He downloaded it from his printer, and his sister works at Kinko's. And he says, I want this made into a banner.
Yes.
Nice. And he measured the front of his house, and he hung it right out in front of his house.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, a state trooper was driving, because he lives in a rural area, state troopers drive through the countryside. He saw that and stopped, knocked on his door, and he says, what the hell? He says, you can read, right? He says, now.
Awesome. I'm glad you brought that up, Ed. I appreciate you bringing up the Dick Act. It's nice hearing your voice again. And before you go to the next caller, Lori, I wanted to just finish out the line of thought. It was brought up, the disarming of the Scots, and how far back this idea of disarmament goes. And let me read you the definition. And this ties in with the bar. Bar Association is a private group that attorneys are forced to join to be able to practice law in the witches' court.
Hang on 1 second there. I want you to get that full thought out. We have to go to a break, and we'll be right back. Just hang on to that thought. I want everybody to hear that. Resurrect the Republic, Dirty Uncle Sam.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Hey folks, Life Change Tea here, reminding you that colds and flus suck. Feeling lousy sucks, and allergies really can be annoying. What if you could change that? What if you could drink something that changed the sick and tired scenario? Well, you can change how you feel with a little help from Life Change Tea. Life Change Tea is a drink you make, you control, and you drink. There are 8 organic herbs that blend together and give you what you need to fight the flus and colds of this world. Less sickness is more relief. Life Change Tea can help with high blood pressure, constipation, high cholesterol, and much, much more just by drinking the tea. Read the numerous testimonies at getthetea.com. If you're tired of feeling lousy, order right now at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. If you've heard this commercial more than once and someone's trying to tell you something, it's time to get well. GetTheTea.com.
My name is Don Wiskin, and at 42 years old, I suffered a massive heart attack and was told I'd be on disability for the rest of my life. What did I do? I created Extendivite, a garlic and cayenne mix of 7 herbs which rebuilt my heart and gave me back my life. For over 17 years now, I have made this formula available to you so you don't have to suffer the same thing I did. Clean your blocked arteries and strengthen your heart and boost your natural immune system. I'm 60 years old now and I still work every day. To get your Extendivite, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Welcome back. Resurrect the Republic, Dirty Uncle Sam Radio, with co-hosts Lorri Anderson, Eric Hughes from Courtroom Observers, and of course, Tom Lacavera Stewart. We have been discussing the Second Amendment rights, the court cases, the Dejure versus the Defacto, and how we can unite by education as well as unite physically to go into these courts, the de facto courts, and be able to help individuals with what is going on. Right before I go right back to you, Eric, for you to finish your statement, I wanted to the NYCIVRTS, and it is Article 2, Section 4. This is the New York Statutory Bill of Rights that we were talking about, and it's, quote, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms cannot be infringed. I don't know how much clearer that can get. If you would, go ahead and continue with that, Eric, your thought.
Sure. Well, I want to just kind of people to take their mind back and look at the overview of history for a second here. We're going to look at things like the globalists do in the grand scheme. When the people who we are battling, the tyrants of the witches' court and all their enforcers and all their henchmen and henchwomen, they have a long-term plan, especially at the very top. Sure do. And they go hundreds of years out. And so I'm going to take people back now. So it was brought up by Tom how far back in history the idea of disarmament goes, how it started with the original, the leaders of the Vatican and the royal families of Europe, basically conspiring to disarm the slaves, disarm us, the people, the middle and lower classes, or restrict their right to bear arms so much that it just becomes impossible and you're going to spend your whole life worrying about, how you're going to take a pistol grip off an AR-15, and they've done that. It's called a New York AR, and it's the weirdest looking thing you've ever seen. So, but let me go back to
innovation.
Now, and so I'm going to read something here now. This is we've got the Bar Association, which are corrupt attorneys that belong to a private club. All the judges that put on the black robes. That's why I call it the witches' court.
Yes, sir.
Because only Luciferians wear black robes. It's an overt statement of where they are, where they stand. Okay, now I'm going to read the definition of the organization that decides who gets to be appointed to be the attorneys. Who picks them? Here's the pickers. Here are the kingmakers, and here's who chooses who the attorneys are going to be. It's called Inns of Court. This is right out of the Black's Law 5th edition dictionary that Lorri was reading out of before. Inns of Court, that's capital INNS, and the word of, and then the word court, Inns of Court. Now listen to this. I'm going to read actually two definitions, a really short one out of American Heritage Dictionary, and then just a little bit longer, like a paragraph out of Black. So let me bounce back over to American Heritage and just give you the short, so this will be a little easier to digest. The Inns of Court. Let's see, here we go. The four legal societies.
Hang on right there. You know what? I'm not going to have you start on a break. We're going into the second hour. Sorry, that was a little short. Just hang on to that thought, and we'll come in fresh on the new hour. Resurrect the Republic, Dirty Uncle Sam, Truth Radio broadcast on RBN. We'll be right back.
Interested in photo ops.
Are you familiar with the term vigor, strength in body and mind? He pursued his tennis game with vigor, for example. Well, I hadn't, but I learned about it from Kurt Crosby. All right? And he actually let me take a scientifically proven free vigor test. And I got 13 out of 32, not very good. But I worked on it with him, and believe it or not, now I have a 29 out of 32 and improving vigor score. You say, Sam, what on earth is this scientific vigor score, huh? My response is you got to take the free test, available now. Get a hold of Kurt Crosby to learn about it. The number's 801-669-2211. That's 801-669-2211. Or email Kurt, C-U-R-T, at LibertyRoundtable.com. That's Kurt, C-U-R-T, at LibertyRoundtable.com for your free vigor test today. Kurt, LibertyRoundtable.com, or 801-669-2211. Vigor test, free, scientifically proven today.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network. Because you can handle the truth.
There was a mighty nation, blessed above all of creation. It was a rare and precious pearl, conceived in faith and liberty, home of the brave, land of the free. It was the envy of the world. But this shining city on a hill has turned from the Creator's will and let evil take control.
Welcome back to Resurrect the Republic, Dirty Uncle Sam Radio, with Lorri Anderson, Eric Hughes of Courtroom Observers, and Tom Lacavera Stewart. Eric, you were getting ready to go into some information right before the break. Can you go ahead and speak with the people about that?
Sure, yep, and I was a little woefully lacking in mentioning one arm of the triad of evil. I mentioned the witch's court. Those are attorneys who put the black robe on. You have the attorneys in private practice who feed on the court. It's a symbiotic relationship. You also have, I neglected to mention, the legislators, the ones who pass the laws, or almost all attorneys or out of the military intelligence field. You almost have to be an attorney to run for office on either the Democrat or a Republican ticket. So you have the people passing the laws, attorneys, member of the bar or private club, the witch's court, the judges, members are attorneys, members of the private club, and supposedly the attorney in private practice who you're going to be relying on to defend you if you have to go in front of the witch's court. They're also a member of the same private club called the bar. Now, guess who belongs to the bar? Inns of court. And here's what Inns of Court are. This is out of the American Heritage. The 4 legal societies in England, founded about the beginning of the 14th century, consisting of Gray's Inn, Lincoln's Inn, the Inner Temple, and the Middle Temple. Note the Masonic references. That was my commentary, which have the exclusive right to confer the degree of barrister on law students. That means they pick who the attorneys are, okay?
Right.
So you have four Inns of Court, Lincoln's Inn, Gray's Inn, Inner Temple, and Middle Temple, obviously Masonic temples, which have the exclusive right to confer the degree of barrister on law students. Okay, now that's been going on since the beginning of the 14th century. So you got to figure about the year 1325, which is when about William Wallace was born. William Wallace's father would have been at the signing, or around the time of, been alive and in his prime, about the time of the signing of the Magna Carta, Great Charter of Civil Liberties, signed at Runnymede in England in the year 1215, upon which all our fundamental rights and Constitution and all that stuff was based on. It was all founded upon the Magna Carta. So anyway, let me read the definition of Inns of Court out of the Black's Law Dictionary. This is what the attorneys use, the members of the bar. Now listen to this. There's going to be a word in here, and most of your savvy listeners will grab up on it. Here we go. Inns of Court, a little bit longer definition. These are certain private, unincorporated associations in the nature of collegiate houses located in London, and invested with the exclusive privilege of calling men to the bar. That is, conferring the rank of degree of barrister. So they're picking the attorneys. Okay. They were founded probably about the beginning of the 14th century. The principal Inns of Court are the Inner Temple, the Middle Temple, Lincoln's Inn, and Gray's Inn. The 2 former originally belonged to the Knights Templar. The 2 latter to the Earls of London and Grey, respectively. These bodies now have a, quote, common council of legal education for private lectures and holding examinations. The Inns of Chancery, distinguishable from the foregoing, but generally classed with them under the general name known as Clifford's Inn, Clement's Inn, New Staples Inn. So they've morphed and changed their name. They were formerly a sort of collegiate houses in which law students learn the elements of law before being admitted into the Inns of Court. So There you go. And you have since about the year 1325, okay, so right about within less than 100 years after the signing of the Magna Carta, shortly after William Wallace was captured and killed and the Scots had their rebellion over what? Disarmament. This has been going on, and don't forget now, this Bar Association, the attorneys picked by the Inns of Court, they have it all set up. It's out of London. And so you have a private club out of London, England, telling the attorneys in the United States that they can do whatever they want because they have sovereign immunity. And that's why, and they think what the attorneys and the judges actually think what they're doing is legal and lawful, and it's nothing of the sort.
Absolutely. And, you know, going along with that sovereign immunity situation as well as the bar, that is one of the reasons that earlier they passed the original 13th Amendment, which was the titles of nobility, because these quote-unquote attorneys, if you notice, if you look behind their name, they're going to have a title of Esquire or something to that effect. They were fighting this same type of situation way back in the day when the Founding Fathers and even early in the 19th century and 1800s, they were fighting the same things, but they recognized them for what they were. And these days, unfortunately, because we've been propagandized so much by mainstream media and by the public school system, has twisted, manipulated, and lied, everybody doesn't know that you have a right to the practice of law, including medicine, is an occupation of common right, as per Sims v. Athrons states. It was a 1925 case. And it also states that you cannot license an occupation of common right in Reedfield v. Fisher. So what many people do not understand, because, like you said, the attorneys are writing the laws, they're enforcing the laws. When you get into their system, the de facto, you're looking at, you've got a bar attorney sitting on the bench, you've got a bar attorney as the prosecutor, and you've got a bar attorney that is the public defender, and they are all only subject to and loyal to their club. They are not loyal to the individual. Nobody in this day and time really truly gets due process. Nobody gets a fair trial unless you're going to a common law grand jury. And that is one of the things, you know, we've been discussing, trying to get people to understand the difference, but also to know how to fight them in both systems. One of the things that is very helpful for individuals to know, get the word out about jury nullification. You can go to the 10th Amendment Center. They've got great information that you can even print off packages. Jury nullification packets. You can print them off and you can pass them out. Mail them to your neighbors, not just people who are already known to be on the jury. The more, knock doors, hand them out, because the more people that know, when they do get chosen to be on a jury, then they know what their duty is. Not just their right, but their duty, because a jury is to protect the people from an overreaching, out-of-control government.
Let me back you up on that. I'll tell you right now, I have very, very good sources from inside the system. The jury, the people who, the tyrants and the enemy are very, very, very scared of jury nullification. That's their Achilles heel. That's their weak spot. That's their soft spot. It's extremely. That's a place we can really, because that's a lawful mechanism for the jury to judge, not just the facts of the case, but the justness of the law. If the law stinks, they can say the person's not guilty, because it doesn't matter if they broke that First of all, there's a difference between statute and law. Right. I would argue the law is very fundamental and can be narrowed down to very few things. No victim, no crime. If the state's trying to claim that it's a victim, okay, where's Mr. State? Bring in Mrs. State and bring in Helen State and let her make a statement for the right. They can't do it. It's a fictitious entity. And I've actually had attorneys look me in the eye. Well, they wouldn't look me in the eye, actually. They looked down at their shoes and turned red. But, yeah, it's a fictitious entity. Yeah, it exists. Yeah, it's real. They actually think that a fictitious entity has reality. Before you go to your next caller, we may have someone who I asked to call in. I hope you didn't mind to give us an update on a case that's going on in Colorado.
Sure.
A man named Steve Curry. Steve Curry is a phenomenal patriot. An older gentleman who's extremely intelligent. He knows the common law extremely well. He knows how to communicate it. He's a great speaker and orator. He's a really nice gentleman, and he's getting he's incarcerated right now. There's so many things going on in this case that are a violation of his fundamental rights that there's too many to list. But I would like to get an update from if that's the person I asked to call in.
Sure.
When you get to them. But just before you go to them, I wanted to tell you, for 3 tenants, I wanted to just pick up on something you were just talking about. You're not going to get justice in the courts because everybody's a member of the same private club. Yeah, the 3 tenets of the New York bar are, number 1, protect the judge. Number 2, protect the opposing attorney, which is usually the state. And number 3, serve the client.
Right.
Last on the list, bro. So anyway, back to so what something where your listeners can actually get involved with tonight for solutions, because I'm big on solutions. That's why I do courtroomobservers.com. How do you get involved? Even if it's just lending your voice. Don't underestimate your voice, people. Making a phone call a couple of times a week for a month on someone's behalf really helps their case. Sending emails helps. Actually, a written letter really makes a big difference. Spend 50 cents, help a patriot, send a letter to the district attorney's office or the court, and then require a response, that they reply to you and on that letter, or maybe send you a copy of an indictment. And, you know, if there isn't one, that's going to kind of be uncomfortable for a court to get 1,000 emails and phone calls requiring. I would like to see you're a public servant. I'm out of state. This is, I'm following this case. It has national implications. Please send me a copy of the indictment. And then when I don't have that indictment, which they almost never do, very few people get indicted for the crimes they're being incarcerated for. It makes it very uncomfortable on the court to know that the public knows how corrupt they are. They don't like the spotlight of truth. They don't like the light of day. They don't like the camera. They don't like public exposure. So we give them lots of public exposure. That's one of the things we do well. So Steve Curry in Colorado is a phenomenal man. He's incarcerated right now. I was hoping, see if your caller has any details on that. And if not, I can throw out what I have before the show ends, and I'll bounce it back to you now, Lori.
Okay, all right. Johnny on line 2, are you there?
Got me, Lori?
Yes. Is this Johnny?
This is Johnny B. from Missouri.
Welcome, Johnny. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate Eric inviting me in and you accepting the opportunity for me to come forward. I've got a lot of information on Steve Curry. I don't know how deep you want to get into the situation, or do you just want the contact information for...
Actually, give us a little bit of a rundown. What has happened with Steve Curry? Why was he arrested? Or the excuse of why he was arrested?
Well, the reason he was arrested is kind of a very convoluted story. But suffice to say that he was fraudulently convicted on charges. He was trying to expose some fraud that was going on in this particular part of Colorado in some commercial contracts.
Right.
But he was sentenced to 500 hours of community service.
Okay.
To serve in 1 year. That's just a little over a third of a year of a full-time employee. And the average for a person being sentenced to community service across the nation is less than 50 hours. That's the average. So he's like 10 times the average. He was doing a lot of community service in the matters of the 13th Amendment, trying to expose the fraud that was going on in the commercial business in this area, and also the common law grand juries, and how to force bills of exchange and commercial liens against public officials to bring them back in, rein them in from their aberrant behavior. So, last November, they arrested him on a courtesy restraint warrant issued from one county to another county. And they put him in jail. Let me see. Well, I might have to hang on to that.
A courtesy restraint. Now, that is the first time I've heard of courtesy restraint.
Yeah, they call it a courtesy hold sometimes. They do that. Well, the marshals will do that a lot when they pick up somebody and they want to hold them in a place. This happened to a guy, Jason Van Elst, down in Florida. In Florida, they took him out of county jail, stuck him in a federal detention center, and said, "We're not letting you out until you start giving us names." And they call it courtesy hold. They ask the jailer, "Hey, we're the marshals. Do a courtesy hold." And there's no lawful reason. There's no arrest. There's no indictment. They call it a courtesy hold, and it's bizarre and it's disgusting.
Oh, so NDAA. Gotcha.
Along the same lines, I've got another friend that actually he was bringing pressure to bear against the court under subject matter jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually had a courtesy arrest warning served on him by 2 federal marshals. No, it was the FBI. The FBI gave him a courtesy arrest warning.
Mm-hmm.
So get your head around that term.
I know.
Someone in an executive position ordered these agents to go tell this guy to stop what you're doing, or next time we come by, we're going to arrest you.
Right.
I mean, come on, fraud, guys, fraud.
Yeah, and they don't like subject matter jurisdiction being challenged, because once subject matter jurisdiction is challenged, for the listeners who don't understand this, the prosecution, not the one who is challenging, but the prosecution, the person who is claiming that they have jurisdiction over the subject matter in which is of that case, they have to be able to prove that they have jurisdiction before the case can go forward, or at least that's the way it's supposed to be in court law, Supreme Court law, and in their statutes and everything else. But they don't tend to abide by that, do they?
Well, they have the gun in the room, sis. So
True that.
You got to go by who's got the bullets.
Right.
But anyway, Stephen was pulled in to serve out a year term. And shortly after getting in there, they realized what level of existence Stephen was at, and he was brought into a trustee position. Now, trustees in Colorado, they get is given 10 days a month good time off of their sentence. Okay, so he has 50 days off of his release date. Because he was, there was another deal where they was going to give him, he only had to serve 6 months actual jail time, because his sentence was only 500 hours of community service over a year, so they cut that in half when they incarcerated him. Okay, then they made him the trustee. And the trustee gets the 10 days off a month for good time. And then all inmates get 3 days off of their sentence for each month that goes by that they have no problems while they're there. Okay, so consequently...
And are you saying he was getting none of that? They were singling him out for more severe punishment, more severe treatment, Johnny, is that true?
Well, I'm working forward here. With all that rolled together, he should have been released 27th of February.
Oh.
They're talking now of like it's going to be June before he'll be released. And actually, further down in their press release, we've got, originally Stephen was taken directly from Mesa County Detention Center to the Montrose County Detention Center for a 1-year term at each facility. So they were going to hold him for 2 years. Okay. Montrose County District Attorney's Office states that there is no courtesy hold on Steve Curry, nor any bond of any kind per Connie Bedwell, his power of attorney. Therefore, the second year is null and void. Calculations by the officers at Mesa County resulted in a release date of February 27th, but he has continued to be held as it is suspected that Sergeant Roundtree, it's a female deputy, has deleted all of the good time allotment in his computer records. they suspect that this Sergeant Roundtree is in collusion with Judge Henderson to keep Judge Curry in jail as long as possible. Now, Steve Curry is living the high life right now. He is teaching not only the inmates but also the deputies on what constitutional living actually is.
Right.
As far as they understand it. I mean, they get nothing but raves from the deputies and the jail staff that they talk to. What kind of numbers would you like to bring forward, Eric? I mean, I could start with...
Johnny, if you had the number, I think definitely the judge, and the judge and the high sheriff of that county, because that sheriff ultimately is the chief peace officer in a county or subdivision. That's according to LegalDictionary.com. That doesn't say except the state police or other than the FBI. He's the big chief and needs to start acting like it and doing the constitutional thing. It's too bad if these sheriffs are scared. Then don't be a sheriff. They're going to have to be held to the fire. We need to blanket him with phone calls. We need to require, and use the word require. Don't ask. Don't be polite. But don't be too, we've got to remember these people, we try to treat our enemies with kindness, but we still realize that they're the enemy. And we need to be forceful and firm, polite, non-threatening, don't swear. Anybody who swears or threatens is not with the courtroom observers. A federal judge mentioned us at the release hearing of Stephen Dean and said, I didn't see anything threatening about all these phone calls we're getting. I don't see any Al-Qaeda here. All I see are people who care about Stephen Dean. So that totally shot down the government's argument that patriot equals terrorist. We know that's a bunch of BS, and they try to play that game. The word terror and the word terrorism originally, in the original Oxford English Dictionary, it was government by intimidation. It was the word was derived from what government does, not from what an individual or even a group of people or what an army or a special forces unit or some mercenary outfit does. That word was specifically designed and defined for government, and that's what they do. Of course, they try to flip everything back and put it on the people. Now, of course, the people are everybody's a potential to the eyes of ignorant people and people calling themselves law enforcement when they're really peace officers. They start thinking that everybody out here is a potential terrorist and the government can do no wrong, and it's just a really upside-down way of looking at things. So we try to put things right, put common sense on our court, require them to send you a copy of an indictment for Steve Curry. I guarantee they don't have any indictment on Steve Curry. The Constitution says there must, in the criminal matters, there must be a bill of presentment to a grand jury, and then a true bill of indictment, a letter of indictment, which is then presented to the sheriff who arrests the person, and we move forward with a trial by a trial jury. But the grand jury comes first to require an indictment. And like I said before in this interview, there's grand jury indictments are woefully absent in about 98 to 99% of the criminal cases in this nation. And we have to put an end to that. This is why people need the knowledge they get from Lorri, Tom, but let's go back to the matter at hand. Let's get involved and help Steve Curry. This is a real true patriot, and it's not just saying this. I've vetted Steve Curry, and he deserves, this is persecution of a patriot. We have to come to his aid. Go ahead.
Eric, there's one aspect of that grand jury process that I'd like to bring forward that most people miss out on.
Can you speak
absolutely
up
do
just a
that,
little
and then
bit,
give us the
Johnny?
number of the high sheriff, and then when you're done with that commentary, Johnny, give us the number of the high sheriff and the witches' court for that county, and the vicar general, because as I'm sure Tom knows, if he mentioned the Catholic Church before, the real power player, the real big cheese behind all the court, the judges and the sheriffs, is the vicar general. And we can talk about that after Johnny finishes with his comment, and then give out some numbers so people can help Steve Curry. Thanks, Johnny.
I've got some numbers. I'll describe them to you as I go through. But
Speak up a little bit so that everybody can hear you better,
Johnny. Turn your volume up, Johnny. Nice and loud now.
That's as high as I can go, guys. I'll just speak up a little. How's that?
Yeah, that's great.
Much better, much better.
Okay, now, when your grand jury is going through its deliberations, and they take the presentment, and they hand that presentment back to the grand jury administrators, which is the investigative side of the grand jury. They call forward the grand jury, and they handle the paperwork and everything. Okay. The presentment comes out, and it is the responsibility of the administrators to contact the person accused to come forward and provide remedy or cure for the injury.
Mm-hmm.
So the actual warrant does not get issued until the accused is found guilty and refuses to make reprimands or retribution for the injuries that they have caused. So the crime really doesn't occur until the guilty party refuses to fix what they broke.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Everybody gets a chance to make things right, and then if that doesn't work, you go to the next step. Excellent point, Johnny. Excellent. Yep.
Yeah, most people miss out on that. The grand jury is a powerful tool. We just got to get our heads around what it actually uses. And if we can get
it's very fair because it kind of throws everything into mediation ahead of time, and you can almost always avoid a court confrontation with fines and criminal charges and all the crap they put on you if you go through a mediative type of thing that you just described.
And the sweet part is, guys, the grand jury's initial job when they started out was to oversee our public servants. They wasn't supposed to be bogged down with all this baloney criminal stuff that goes on. That pretty well takes care of itself. They were supposed to be there to make sure that our public servants are serving the public and not lining their own pockets or not doing their job, period. So, anyway, we'll get on into this. What I've got for the Mesa County Sheriff's Office, if you're ready, I'll say the number twice. 970-244-3500. That's Mesa County, Colorado. 970-244-3500. And I have the acting sheriff, Matt Lewis, down in my information I got from Colorado.
Okay, what's his number?
That is his number. That's the main number for the sheriff's office.
Okay, so Matt Lewis is the sheriff for the Mesa County, Colorado, and the number is 970-244-3500. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, everybody, you want to get involved, you want to help individuals, you want to make a change, you want to be that change, make some phone calls, find out some emails, and let's get some calls going on for this gentleman who is being held unlawfully.
Get the court contact for the actual court, Johnny, the judge's chambers or something?
I've got the number for the district attorney, and they've actually got a point person. Someone has found a contact within the district attorney's office that you can't get this contact from any information online. Okay. They have to transfer you over when you call in.
Mm-hmm.
But the number for their office is 970-244-1730. Repeat, 970-244-1730.
And who would they ask for?
The person you ask for is Danielle Warley, W-A-R-L-Y, Danielle Warley. And they will transfer you over to her office.
Okay, wonderful. We'll be back right after these messages from our sponsors.
Transparent administration in history.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Dr. Joel Wallach, author of the famous health lecture Dead Doctors Don't Lie, presents his newest book, Epigenetics. Epigenetics is required reading for the very survival of Americans, and yes, all of humanity. Modern man has bet on the wrong horse to save them from disease and pestilence. The medical system has failed us fearfully. Join the health revolution. Buy Epigenetics today and receive a free membership to purchase all the products that Dr. Joel Wallach formulated at wholesale prices and receive a free CD of Dead Doctors Don't Lie. All this for only $25 plus shipping and handling. Call 888-311-4311. That's 888-311-4311. Again, that's just $25 plus shipping and handling. And you'll receive the new book, Epigenetics, a free membership, and a free CD of Dead Doctors Don't Lie. Call 888-311-4311. That's 888-311-4311.
Recent events have shown just how vulnerable we are to deadly viruses, bacteria, and fungus. These diseases are all caused by infectious pathogens that often get the upper hand on conventional medical treatments. Now more than ever, there's a great need for a product that will help protect us. Look no further. Supernatural Silver can provide immune system support to help fight off these deadly pathogens. Supernatural Silver is a new and vastly improved type of silver solution that's safe and extremely effective against 143 types of bacteria, both forms of viruses, mold, and yeast. Supernatural Silver can be taken orally or used topically and can be used in a nebulizer or vaporizer for inhalation. With over 180 scientific studies by independent universities, hospitals, and research institutions, Supernatural Silver is a powerful weapon against disease. Go to supernaturalsilver.com and use the promo code SILVER2014 for 20% off your entire order. Give you and your loved ones a fighting chance with Supernatural Silver.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Mother of the moon, which filled my sails, rose the sea of years.
Welcome back to Resurrect the Republic, Dirty Uncle Sam Radio on RBN. Here with me, Lorri Anderson, Tom Lacavera Stewart, and Eric Hughes of CourtroomObservers.com. We have a guest on the phone named Johnny. Johnny, would you like to finish what you were saying before the break?
Yes, Lori, thank you very much. I'd like to share everybody Steve Curry's case number.
Okay.
Which, when you move in with the Vicar General or the DA's office, you'll probably need his case number for them to get the matters under their fingertips. And that is 12 M as in Mary 265.
Okay, and that is 12 M as in Mary 265, correct?
Yes, ma'am. And that's
okay,
Steve
and
Curry.
Can you spell his last name for everybody?
It's just like the spice. Curry.
Okay. So we have Steve Curry, everybody. His case number is 12M265. That would be great when you make your calls as well and your emails being sent out to put that as a reference point as well when you are reaching out to speak for this individual. I wanted to say, because you had said about the judge and they think they have judicial immunity, and I was looking at an interesting case, and it is hold on one second on that one. I hit the wrong one. There we go. Scholler v. Rhodes. And it says, when a state officer acts under a state law in a manner violative of the federal Constitution, he comes into conflict with the superior authority of that Constitution, and he is, in that case, stripped of his official or representative character and is subjected in his person to the consequences of his individual conduct. The state has no power to impart to him any immunity from responsibility to the supreme authority of the United States, unquote. They are absolutely to be held accountable for their unconstitutional actions. This is one of the reasons that they take an oath. They take an oath to their state constitutions as well as to the federal Constitution. Hopefully that case may be helpful for individuals to be able to quote as well. Eric, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to this case? We have a couple of other callers on the line.
Yep, I'm going to make it brief because I know we're coming up against it. But I want where Johnny B is going to go to a place now, and I wanted to explain people why. At the Courtroom Observers, when we request a phone blitz, which is lay up as many phone calls as we can upon the corrupt court and the sheriff's office, be firm, be polite. One of the players that we always include calling is the Vicar General. That's V-I-C-A-R, next word general. Let me just read you quick the definition of the word vicar. This is out of the American Heritage Dictionary. A priest of a parish who receives a stipend or salary from a layman or religious corporation responsible for appropriating the principal revenues. Let me translate that for you. He's the Vatican tax collector. He's the guy who the court appoints. Yeah, okay. He runs the courts and all your political officials, regardless of what party or office they hold. They all answer to the Vicar General. It's a real, type it in. And, in Tampa, it's Bob Morris. And Hartford, Connecticut, Stephen Bogoslawski. And in Salt Lake City, it's Colin Burkham-Shaw. And I believe in Denver, Colorado, Randy Dollins. Am I right, Johnny? Or who is the Vicar General? Because we always include the Vicar General to call and say, look, we know you're the big cheese. We know you have power over the courts. We want the Constitution respected. We want our natural rights here. If you're a man of God, Mr. Vicar General, you claim to be a man of the cloth. Let's do the godly and just and honest and righteous thing and set Mr. Curry free. That's what I would recommend saying to the Vicar General. And who is it and what is his number, Johnny?
What I've found online is the very Reverend Giovanni Capucci.
Oh.
And that's what the Archdiocese. That's what the Archdiocese of Denver. We can't find any information on Mesa County. So
that'll be Denver. It will be. There's not a Vicar General in every small town, but there's a Vicar General in every decent-sized small, medium, and large cities. So spell his last name for the callers. This is the Vicar General of most of Colorado. In the western states, there's usually one vicar in the main city. There might be some out in Fort Collins or something like that. But give us Giovanni. How do you spell his last name? They got him right from Rome.
C is in Charlie. A is in Alpha. P is in Paul. U, umbrella. CC, that's Charlie, Charlie. Igloo, I. C-A-P-U-C-C-I, Capucci.
Okay. Good work, Johnny. That's great. And so I would encourage anybody who wants to call on behalf of Steve Curry. And the reason that I think it's really important, we have to help Steve Curry. as much, if not more, than we'd help anybody else, because I really, and I don't say this lightly, he's in the category of a super patriot. He's in the category with a Ron Paul or a Russell Means or a Larry Pickney. He's world class. This guy is, and this is absolute persecution of a patriot because of where he stands politically, which is on natural and common law. He's a senior statesman of our movement, people. So I really highly recommend. And I know Mr. Curry. Spent many hours on the phone with him. He's a phenomenal man, and I really encourage. Now, if people want to go to courtroomobservers.com, it's not up there now, but we're in the next hopefully 48 hours. We're going to craft a habeas corpus for Steve Curry, and a habeas corpus means show me the body. It's a lawful command to release somebody from incarceration if they're being held unlawfully. And I think Johnny B's made clear the case that Steve Curry is being held unlawfully, and it's absolutely because he's an awesome patriot and a great man, and he's being punished for his politics. They held Stephen Dean without bail for touching a gun once at a shooting range. He was facing 50 years in prison. And the government said, we need to hold him because of his political beliefs. He's a patriot. He belongs to these organizations that want, common law. It was all baloney, and they had to end up releasing him. So it's a tough battle along the way, but we will win the war in the end. And I wanted to thank Tom for allowing this information to come out and letting us, vet this on his show, because this is really going to help Steve Curry as people can get involved. And if we can, we're going to do our best in the next few days to get a habeas corpus.
I hope you know. I know Steve personally.
Good. Okay, Steve.
We spent some time out at the Bundy Ranch. He was in my hotel room. We've sat and we've had many a conversation. And
I'm sure those were. I would like to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. Now, the habeas corpus, we're going to try to have it in a PDF that people can download, print out on their printer, and then sign their name to it, requiring that Steve be released immediately. There's no risk to the person sending in the habeas corpus. Spend 50 cents on a stamp and help a patriot. If you can't spend a $50 and help a guy like Steve Curry, I got to tell you, you don't deserve to be free, really. And this is an easy one. And it's a great way for y'all to learn how to do a habeas corpus, what's involved. It's going to be real simple, one page. I try to just cram it all into one page, real simple. I, Eric, a living man, require the release of Steve Curry immediately. He's being held unlawfully. Failure to honor this habeas corpus within 3 to 5 days means default. Default requires remedy, $1 silver per second for duration of trespass. And failure to honor this within 5 days of its tender will be proof of evidence by acquiescence that Steve is injured by government agents operating under color of law and exceeding their jurisdiction. And it's real simple, and we're just going to all send that in to the judge. We're going to send it to the sheriff. Send it to the president of the Chamber of Commerce. Hit him in their wallet.
Has anybody spoken?
If you want, your people you're not going to get this anywhere else. So support this show, people. You're seeing activism on the hoof. Get involved. Print out a habeas corpus and send it in on the behalf of Steve Curry. And if we ever get around to enforcing this, which we will someday, $1 silver per second can really add up.
Amen to that.
One question is, has anyone reached out to Steve Curry's brother at all?
No idea, Johnny.
I wouldn't have a clue. I know we're working ourselves sideways to take care of Sandra, his wife. They're trying to foreclose on their property they have there in I believe it's Montrose County.
Yeah,
is where the farm at, and we've had.
That was one disgusting development that we also. It's very similar to the Richard Reinheimer case. As soon as Steve got incarcerated, they went out and tried to seize his house. And Richard Reinheimer, as soon as he got 2 years for resisting arrest, which was just pulling his arm away from a cop, 2 years. They came. He went in on a Friday. Monday, they showed up and seized his farm and put his family out in the streets. That's the level of when I did it.
Property.
Here's how bad it is.
BLM things that they're trying to get a hold of?
Well, no, Lorri, I believe it's just more the jealousy of the judge.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they incarcerated Sandra, shortly after they arrested Steve, they held her in booking for a week.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
She was
an elderly woman, folks.
Yeah, she did not. She was not allowed phone calls because she hadn't been processed. They didn't have to feed her. They didn't have to provide her any medical services. And she was just stuck in limbo. It's like going to purgatory. You know?
Yeah,
Well, you hit the nail on the head there. All roads lead back to Rome.
And they do, and the sad thing is this is happening all across our union, and people are done. They're tired of it, you know. And people are waking up in such mass, and I'm not saying that I support or don't support Donald Trump, okay? But I'm going to give you an example of what I mean. People are lining up in droves to vote for him because they do not see him as establishment. He doesn't fit into that clique.
Oh, my dear.
Now, we know this is a corporation.
Yep.
So it really doesn't matter what's going on in D.C. I could care less.
Nope.
They can stay in their 10 miles
10
square
miles,
and
keep
I'll
it.
be happy.
Keep it.
But the reality is this is what the individuals who are not really truly aware of what they're really lining up for are doing this en masse because they see everybody else who's claiming, oh, I'm going to do this, and they're running for, quote-unquote, President of the United States, CEO of the corporation, and, you know, they're going to do all these changes. Well, they didn't do the changes in Senate. They didn't stop the funding of terrorism in the Senate. They helped the funding, arming, training, and even fighting along with, quote-unquote, ISIS, which CIA factions. You can list it back to Al-Qaeda and Mujahideen. You know.
There's a very interesting, there's an interesting, I believe it's a Brian Lamb interview from 1994 or 1996 on CNN where they discussed that ISIS is an Israeli secret intelligence services, and they basically hire mercenaries, dress them up as Muslims, stir the pot. Of course, they never attack Israel. Haven't seen that happen. They're only attacking Christians.
Define Israel.
Right.
Define Israel.
Yes,
right, thank you. You got me. No, you're right. It's a plot of land that's not.
Thank you.
We can go down.
That's sand.
I'd be happy to go there with you. No,
just,
I know right where you're coming from and
All
where
right.
you're going on that, and we're in agreement.
We are the living body of Jesus Christ, and that's just, I mean, my own personal faith. I don't know what yours is.
It's the Holy Spirit, and it's the people scattered throughout. The tribes have been scattered throughout the world, so I don't believe it's exclusive to that plot of land.
No.
I think we're definitely in agreement on that. But I'll tell you, way above Israel and even the quote unquote Jewish thing, you're looking at the Vatican and the Vicar General.
And it's, you know, here, you know what? Hold on a second. I think this is really, I'm glad that you brought that up. And, you know, RBN, we're kind of critical on certain things, but let's slide that aside for a minute. This is not really Judaism that we're talking about. What we are talking about, and this is so important, especially with these pillars of Baal being raised all over the country right now. This is not just a battle in this realm. It's a spiritual battle. It's an ideological battle. It's a battle on every single front we're being assaulted on. It really, truly, truly, truly is. Now, and when I say that, you know, my father is a judge. You guys know that. He's a retired judge, and he retired in the Knights of Columbus Hall and all of that stuff. Anyway, he was a good man, though, and I will never besmirch it. I never will ever tarnish that from him. He was a believer, and here is the problem with Freemasonry, with the so-called Illuminati. This is Luciferianism, and if you trace this back, even to the ones that some people call Judaism today, there's Judaism of the Torah, and then there is the Babylonian Talmud.
Right.
That Talmud that came out of Babylon had nothing to do with the God of Abraham.
That's
nothing.
I've often said if we had real Jews, I mean, if they were worshiping a creator God and doing right by their neighbor and building a better society, we wouldn't have the real problem. We have the synagogue of Satan.
Didn't it say that? I mean, we're always told that the promised land would be delivered unto them, not that they would have to fight to take it, right?
Right.
Literally, where's God? Hello? No, another Moab missile. You know. Come on, more bombs for Jesus is getting old.
Right.
And you know, people, once again, the practical, one of the good things about doing the Courtroom Observers was I learned where the real practical local application of the power is going. You know, it wasn't, I don't see it going to APAC. I mean, I know they're powerful in the
yeah, they're powerful. But yeah,
but I see it. What I found was this, Tom. I got into court and I saw, guess who was being appointed over everything from multi-million-dollar upstate New York estates that came out of the Eastman Kodak money, estates that went into testate or into the public administrator, children seized from their parents by CTS for stupid things like, you know, a little cannabis or not enough toilet paper. I know a guy personally, his Social Security settlement. Guess who's being appointed by the court, by the judges, over all these matters? Catholic charities managed by, surprise, surprise, guess who? The Vicar General.
The Vicar General.
So the Catholic charities gets tens of millions of dollars in tax money. Every diocese gets it. So they're getting it from the taxpayer, and they're getting it by the court appointing their organization. I mean, they are truly the tax collector for the Vatican. And property taxes don't go to your community. The communities are awash in assets. They bury their assets. If anybody wants to really see how well off their communities are, you know, they'll complain every year they're broke on their budget.
Oh yeah.
That's for the CAFR, the Golden CAFR, Comprehensive Annual
Financial Report.
And that's the Golden CAFR.
Yes.
So, and that's where they hide their money and their assets, and they like to buy, you know, fleets of new vehicles and give their corporate buddies the contracts to do it. So when they retire from their public office, there's a nice cushy job waiting for them from the people who they gave contracts to when they were in public office. You see, that's why there's this cycle in and out of government. They just keep going right back, you know. So it's one giant revolving circle, and out of it. And it just draws resources from the producing public into the leeches that are members of the private club called the bar. And you're right. I have seen some judges really try hard to do the right thing. There are several who do that.
Well, my father had the freedom in his tenure. He had the freedom to still do that, and as he was getting on to the end of his career, they started doing a lot of mandatory this, mandatory that, and they're tying the hands of the judges.
Yeah, and nowadays, like you said, they're retiring the good people, and they're bringing in
they're retaining the communist administrator mentality.
Tom, and it really is.
Break in here.
Tom, thanks a lot for having us all on tonight. You were it's a real blessing to be able to get the word out there. And once again, I really hope people get involved with this Steve Curry case. Download habeas corpus, send it in on behalf of Steve, sign your name to it as the petitioner, and the petition by your name and petition for Mr. Steve Curry.
I want to tell you something just for a second. You know, I have to apologize to my listeners because you're not going to know what I'm talking about. But one day, you and I are going to have a conversation, and you'll understand exactly. Well, just remember that you and I had this discussion right here. There's going to be a day where I'm going to tell you something that's going to knock you over. I have to set this up properly because, well, you'll understand soon. But I really, really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing the information that you have. You're welcome back anytime at all. I think that regardless of what else people believe, this is not an ideology and these are not beliefs that we believe in. They're facts, they're history, and their tradition that the cultural Marxism of today, from both sides, right and left, both arms of the same bird, flapping together, have brought on. And these parties, there is no parties, first of all. There's one party. The Trotsky, you can have your Trotsky Kool-Aid in the neoconservative party, or you can have your more Karl Marxist flavor of Kool-Aid in the other side. Either way, it's godless. It is immoral, degeneracy. Now, folks, remember I was talking to you about Baal. Okay, this is what they used to do. They used to sacrifice children to Moloch and Baal, and they used to have bisexual and homosexual rituals around the statue.
Still doing it.
Yeah, I get that. But I'm not going to the whole. I'm not even getting to Bohemian Grove yet. Yes, that's part of it. That's that
they're
cult.
doing it here.
Yes,
we can touch
everywhere.
This on another, we
Yes.
can touch this on another show, but we uncovered. You mentioned the word before, Luciferians.
Yes.
And I
yes.
And I wanted to jump in, but I didn't want to keep interrupting you. And
No, go ahead. It's all right.
There is absolutely, and a whole bunch of people out there know it, and there's only so much I can say right now because it involves the abuse of minors. But there is a major ring of Luciferians that run the local government and banking establishment, real estate companies at the highest level here in Western New York, and it's absolutely evil. So this is why I'm really hoping that people will kind of get out of their catharsis if they're still kind of in a comfort zone. I implore people to realize there is some serious evil that's ingrained in your local government. Stop looking to the, Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to go far.
Stop looking in Washington.
Even Supreme Court decisions are being ignored in the local courts. I've watched it happen.
I look at the federal government today like a spill, and you have to get into your local community and you have to wring it out and just because that's what it is. It's an infection that goes right down into the municipality. If they're accepting federal funds for anything, they're covered by the administrative procedures, by the way.
Yeah, and they're accepting federal funds for everything. And I can easily make the case, and I'll do it any time, that the tyranny of the local is far worse than even the tyranny of the federal right now.
Yes. Yeah.
And on that note, I want to say this, because this goes right along with it. Perry versus United States, 204 U.S. 330 and 358. Quote, I do not understand the government to contend that it is any less bound by the obligation than a private individual would be. It is not the function of our government to keep the citizen from falling into error. It is the function of the citizen to keep the government from falling into error.
Booyah!
Hey, Tom, am I still on?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've got an avenue for the folks that don't want to step in harm's way.
Okay.
Expose themselves to the court and the corruption.
Okay.
There's a new organization just started up week before last, and they're moving on an end around to come into the the political districts and sequester our control back over our government.
And what is this? What is the name of this?
If I could offer the website,
Sure,
all
go
the
ahead.
information's on the site. It's americaagain.net. And keep an open mind. The man is very Christian. He is on a mission from God, I'm sure.
Hey, we need more people like that.
We were founded as a Christian nation. That shouldn't be offensive.
Can I just second that motion? I wanted to second the motion. AmericaAgain.net, and they're solid. They've got a decent plan. The only thing I would add to their plan is if you're going to get together and have meetings, do it down at the courthouse, because that's fertile ground for finding new patriots and people.
Sure.
Everybody there is seeking liberty and being persecuted.
The flies on the walls that will actually be in that room, maybe they'll learn something.
Right.
Folks,
Ta-da.
thank you for sharing your evening with us and our listeners. God bless all of you, and Lorri, thank you.
Thank you. You all have a wonderful evening. I apologize to the callers we were not able to get to tonight.
Sorry about
However,
that, folks. That's my fault.
Next. Please listen next, and hopefully we'll be able to get to your call next time.
We will. I promise.
God bless y'all.
God bless. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.